So you're probably wondering, how am I doing today? So just to give you a little background about myself, I went through years of trying different seizure medications. Nothing really worked for me. I tried VNS for about 4 years. For me, it didn't work for me. I went in for testing for resection surgery where my doctors were thinking that they were going to be able to remove my right temporal lobe. They thought that's where everything was coming from. But during the intracranial mapping, they discovered that I had seizures coming from both temporal lobes. So we didn't do that resection surgery for me. It's the left side, they figured out that's where all my language, speech, memory resided, so they couldn't touch that area. So the type of seizures I had are called today focal seizures. I had both the aware and unaware. And then I also had the secondary generalized seizures. So that word secondary means that those focal seizures that I was having would just get bigger and bigger until eventually my whole brain was seizing at once. What would happen to me when I had these generalized seizures is my body would tighten up really, really tight to where I'll dislocate joints and break bones. So for example, I have a prosthetic right shoulder that's replaced a couple of times. I broke that prosthetic a couple of times just from the seizures I was having. I have a metal thumb joint here because seizures from in the hand and arm kept breaking the base of my thumb, so I had that replaced. I had a pacemaker put in that would restart my heart because paramedics and ER doctors discovered that my heart did go into AFib during these 15, 20-minute long seizures, so I had that put in. I was having these generalized seizures every 3 to 5 days. So every 3 to 5 days, I felt like I got hit by a bus. And so that was my life for years and years and years, just constant pain. Every night I went to sleep, I never knew if I was going to wake up in the morning because I was fearful of SUDEP, sudden unexpected death and epilepsy, because that's how severe my seizures were, especially in my sleep. So when I decided to move forward with RNS, the RNS system, I never really knew what it could actually do for me. I thought that I was probably going to end up dead from my seizures eventually because I knew I could only break so many bones and, survive so many of these seizures. So when I started college, I also wasn't sure, would I even be able to finish college? But I gave it a chance. I tried. I ended up realizing that, us as humans, we're really resilient. We can overcome a lot of obstacles. And so I just lived each day, just, get through the day, and then there's a new day. Eventually, my seizures, instead of every 3 to 5 days that I was having, they started being every 4 to 6 months, the large ones. And then eventually they went away. In fact, I was using a seizure diary, keeping track of these seizures. It was a paper diary 17 years ago. And I remember the first diary that I turned in, and these were year-long calendar diaries. That diary was blank. There was no seizure activity on there. And I thought that I was just forgot. I was lazy. I forgot to write stuff down. And my doctors, using my RNS data, were saying, no, you're right. There was no seizures. And so I was just oh, okay. And the next year, the diary was blank. And the next year, today, I've been seizure-free since 2012. Today, I work, I drive, I live a normal life. I download from my head to my tablet once a month, once every 2 months. It's more kind of like a maintenance check, making sure everything's still working up there because, again, I'm not aware of anything that's going on up there. When I see my doctors, it's usually every 12 to 14 months that I see her. And my appointments are only about 20 minutes in length, so I'm pretty much in and out of hospital really quick. I never thought that this would be my life today. Today I'm just wondering what am I going to do today? I'm not fearful of driving or flying or spending the night at someone's house, like my parents' house. I used to be afraid of spending the night and having a bladder release because I had a seizure in my sleep. Those days, I don't even worry about those anymore. So I look back now and I just, I always tell people, do know there is hope. Definitely continue learning, talking about these options because, that's just going to help you and your doctors figure out what are your treatment goals? What do you want? And that's what my doctors did with me. And we just got me to where I'm at today. So again, thank you everyone for joining and learning about living with your RNS system. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out anytime.